The morning sun hadn't yet burned through Savannah's signature morning mist when Camille Prescott saw the little girl running toward certain death. She didn't think, couldn't think. Her body moved before her mind could process the consequences, launching forward as the delivery truck's horn blared through the quiet street. Time stretched like molasses. The child's floral dress fluttered in the morning breeze, her tiny sparkled shoes catching the light as she chased what looked like a paper airplane. The truck driver's face contorted in horror. And Camille, well, Camille just ran. Her worn sneakers hit the pavement hard as she sprinted. The distance between her and the little girl seemed impossible to close, but somehow she did it. At the last possible second, Camille's arms wrapped around the small body and she twisted, using her momentum to roll them both onto the narrow strip of grass between sidewalk and street. The truck whooshed past, leaving nothing but a gust of wind and the echo of screeching brakes. For a moment, Camille just lay there, heart thundering in her chest. The little girl clutched safely against her. The dewy grass soaked through her thin t-shirt, and her elbow stung where it had scraped the concrete. But none of that mattered. What mattered was the rapid rise and fall of the small chest pressed against hers. Proof that they were both alive. "Are you okay?" Camille finally managed to ask, carefully sitting up and looking down at the child. Big blue eyes stared back at her, wide with shock but surprisingly tear-free. A plastic tiara had fallen from the girl's head during their tumble, landing a few feet away in the grass. "My crown," the little girl whispered, her lower lip trembling slightly. Camille reached over to retrieve it, noting how the cheap plastic gleamed with the same determination as real diamonds. "Here you go, princess." She placed it gently back on the girl's head, adjusting it until it sat just right. "I'm Camille. What's your name?" "Ivy," came the soft reply. "Ivy Merrick." She touched the crown with careful fingers, then looked at Camille with such pure trust it made something in Camille's chest ache. "You saved me." Before Camille could respond, heavy footsteps pounded against the sidewalk and a deep voice called out, "Ivy! Oh God, Ivy!" She looked up to see a tall man running toward them, his face pale with fear. He wore a faded t-shirt and work boots, and even from a distance Camille could see the way his hands trembled as he reached for his daughter. "Daddy!" Ivy scrambled up and ran to him. He scooped her into his arms, holding her so tight it seemed he'd never let go. Camille stood slowly, wincing at the ache in her side. Her work shirt was grass-stained, and she'd definitely miss her morning shift at the Hendersons' house. Mrs. Henderson wouldn't be happy. It was hard enough keeping steady work as a part-time nanny without adding tardiness to the mix. "Thank you," the man said, his voice rough with emotion. "I was just inside grabbing her lunchbox. She's never run out like that before." He pressed his face into Ivy's hair, and Camille noticed the old watch on his wrist, its face scratched and worn. "I'm Silas Merrick." "Camille Prescott." She tried to smile, but something about the raw gratitude in his eyes made it difficult to meet his gaze. "It's fine. Anyone would have—" "No," he cut in. "They wouldn't have. You risked your life for my daughter." His eyes, a deep brown that reminded her of coffee grounds at the bottom of a cup, finally caught and held hers. "I owe you everything." Camille shifted uncomfortably, very aware of her disheveled appearance and the growing lateness of the hour. Her brother Liam would be waiting for his lunch money, and she still had to figure out how to explain this to Mrs. Henderson. "Really, it's okay. I should actually— You're hurt," Ivy piped up, pointing at Camille's elbow where blood had started to seep through her sleeve. Silas's expression changed immediately. "Let me help. I'm a firefighter. I've got a first aid kit inside, please." Maybe it was the genuine concern in his voice, or maybe it was the way Ivy looked at her like she was some kind of superhero, but Camille found herself nodding. "Okay, just for a minute." As she followed them toward their modest house, with its weathered porch and gently swaying swing, Camille couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened. Not just the save, though that had been dramatic enough, but something else. Something that felt strangely like destiny, if she believed in such things, which she didn't. She couldn't afford to. The screen door creaked as Silas held it open, for her, and Camille stepped into the warm darkness of their home. A familiar scent of coffee and cinnamon wrapped around her, reminding her of mornings long ago when her own mother used to bake, before everything fell apart, before she learned that nothing good ever lasted. But as Ivy slipped her small hand into Camille's, leading her toward the kitchen with its cheerful yellow curtains and scattered crayons on the table, she felt something dangerous begin to bloom in her chest. Hope. And that, she knew from bitter experience, was the most dangerous thing of all. To be continued. What would you do if fate gave you an unexpected second chance at happiness? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your participation in this channel means everything to us. Please leave your opinion in the comments. 3 days after the near accident, Camille stood in her tiny kitchen, staring at the final notice from the power company. The paper trembled slightly in her hands, its red lettering harsh under the flickering fluorescent light. She glanced at the clock, 5:47 a.m., and closed her eyes, mentally recalculating her finances for the 100th time. The sound of shuffling feet made her quickly fold the notice and slip it into her pocket. "Morning, Squirt," she called out, forcing cheerfulness into her voice as Liam appeared in the doorway, his dark hair sticking up in all directions. "Don't call me that," her 16-year-old brother grumbled, but there was no real heat in his words. He dropped into one of their mismatched kitchen chairs, the old wood creaking beneath his lanky frame. "We got any coffee?" "You mean, do we have any coffee?" And no, you're too young for that stuff anyway. She placed a glass of orange juice and a slightly bruised apple in front of him. "But we do have breakfast." Liam stared at the meager offering. "Cam, don't." She turned away, busying herself with wiping down the already clean counter. "It's fine. I'm getting paid today and I've got that new family interested in after-school care." She didn't mention that Mrs. Henderson had cut her hours after Monday's tardiness, or that the new family was still thinking about it. "I could get a job," Liam said quietly. "Maybe at that garage near school," Mr. Patterson said. "No." Camille spun around, her voice sharper than intended. She softened it immediately, reaching out to ruffle his hair like she used to when he was small. "Your job is to focus on school, okay? I promised Mom." The mention of their mother hung heavy in the air between them. 4 years had passed since the cancer took her, but sometimes it felt like yesterday. Sometimes Camille could still hear her final whisper, "Take care of him, Cammy. Promise me." The sharp trill of her phone broke the moment. Unknown number. "Hello? Camille? This is Silas Merrick." His deep voice sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. "I hope I'm not calling too early." She turned away from Liam's curious gaze. "No, it's fine. Is everything okay? Is Ivy?" "She's fine. Great, actually. She won't stop talking about you." He cleared his throat. "Listen, I know this is out of the blue, but we've been looking for someone to watch Ivy after school. 3 days a week, maybe more. I know you do this kind of work. And after what happened..." He trailed off, then added quietly, "She trusts you. That's not something that comes easy for her. Not since her mother." Camille's heart stuttered. The timing was almost too perfect, like one of those miracles her mother used to believe in. But life had taught her to be wary of perfect things. I'd need to check my schedule," she said carefully, even as her mind raced through the possibilities. The Merrick's house was closer than the Hendersons, and 3 guaranteed days would help with the bills, especially now that... "Of course," Silas said quickly. "Take your time. Maybe you could come by today around 4? Ivy would love to see you and we could discuss details." Before she could answer, a crash from the living room made her jump. "Crap, sorry," Liam called out. "The lamp just... I didn't mean to..." "Everything okay?" Silas asked. "Fine," Camille said automatically, already moving toward the sound. 4 o'clock works, I'll be there." She ended the call to find Liam standing over the shattered remains of their mother's favorite lamp. His face was a mask of guilt and frustration. I was just trying to fix the bulb. It was flickering and I thought, hey. She touched his arm gently. It's just a lamp. But they both knew it wasn't. It was one of the last pieces they had of her, of the life before. Just like the chipped tea set in the cabinet and the faded quilt on Camille's bed. I'm sorry, Liam whispered, and she heard the weight of everything in those two words. Sorry, for the lamp, for being a burden, for needing so much when she had so little to give. Don't be. Camille started gathering the broken pieces, careful of the sharp edges. Sometimes things break. Doesn't mean they can't be fixed. Later, as she walked to her morning job, those words echoed in her mind. The crisp Georgia morning wrapped around her like a familiar blanket, and she found herself thinking about Ivy's trusting eyes and Silas's quiet intensity, about broken things and second chances. Her phone buzzed again, another bill reminder, and reality crashed back in. She couldn't afford to think about trust or chances or the way Silas's voice had softened when he talked about his daughter. She had responsibilities, a brother to raise, bills to pay. But as she passed the Merrick Street, she caught a glimpse of Ivy on the porch, still in her pajamas, carefully arranging what looked like a tea party for her stuffed animals. The little girl looked up, somehow sensing Camille's presence, and her whole face lit up with a wave. Before Camille could stop herself, she waved back, and somewhere in the back of her mind she heard her mother's voice, gentle as a summer breeze. Sometimes, baby girl, love is the bravest kind of responsibility there is. To be continued. Have you ever had to choose between protecting your heart and taking a chance on something new? Tell us about it in the comments below. Your participation in this channel means everything to us. Please leave your opinion in the comments. The Merrick's porch steps creaked under Camille's feet at precisely 4 o'clock. She'd changed into her cleanest jeans and a soft blue sweater that her mother had once said brought out her eyes, though the sleeve still couldn't quite hide the bandage on her elbow. Her heart thundered as she raised her hand to knock. But before she could, the door flew open. You came. Ivy bounced on her toes, wearing what appeared to be a firefighter's helmet several sizes too big. It slipped forward, covering her eyes, and she pushed it back with practiced ease. Daddy, she's here. Inside voice, sweet pea. Silas appeared behind his daughter, and Camille's breath caught. He'd clearly just showered after his shift. His hair was damp and he smelled of soap and something woodsy. A fading bruise colored his jaw, testament to the dangers of his profession. Come in, please. The house felt different in daylight. Sunbeams filtered through lace curtains that had seen better days, illuminating walls covered in Ivy's artwork, and Camille noticed conspicuously empty of family photos. Except for one, a woman with Ivy's eyes and a brilliant smile wearing a graduation cap and firefighter's uniform. The frame looked well polished, loved. That's my mommy, Ivy said softly, following Camille's gaze. She was brave like you. Silas's sharp intake of breath filled the sudden silence. Ivy, honey, why don't you show Camille your special project while I make some coffee? Oh, yes. Ivy grabbed Camille's hand, tugging her toward what appeared to be a dining room converted into an art space. I'm making a garden, but it's not outside, 'cause outside burned up. Camille's heart clenched as she took in the scene. Dozens of paper. Flowers bloomed across one wall. Roses, daisies, and others she couldn't name, each carefully colored and taped in place. In the center, a paper tree stretched toward the ceiling, its branches heavy with origami birds. See? Ivy pointed proudly. Even if things burn, you can make them grow again. That's what Ms. Rivera at school says in art therapy. It's beautiful, Camille whispered, and meant it. She recognized the hope in this paper garden. The same hope she'd seen in Liam's eyes when he'd tried to fix the lamp that morning. Coffee's ready, Silas called from the kitchen. Ivy, got your homework? Yes, Daddy. Ivy skipped to her backpack, pulling out a math worksheet. Can I do it here? I want Camille to see my numbers. Of course, sweet pea. As Ivy settled at her little desk, Silas gestured for Camille to join him at the kitchen table. She sat, wrapping her hands around the warm mug he offered. The kitchen showed signs of a single parent's life. Dishes drying in the rack, a calendar packed with work shifts and doctor appointments, a stack of takeout menus held down by a toy crown. "She likes you," Silas said quietly, his eyes on his daughter. "She doesn't usually. After Lauren died, she stopped talking for almost 2 months." "I'm so sorry," Camille said, meaning more than just the loss. "How long?" 18 months, 3 days. He twisted the old watch on his wrist. There was a call. Structure fire. Lauren and I were on the same crew. We weren't supposed to be, but Thompson was out sick. His voice dropped so low Camille had to lean in to hear. The floor gave way. I reached for her, but... He stopped, pain etching lines around his eyes. Camille fought the urge to reach across the table, to offer comfort she wasn't sure she had the right to give. "Daddy," Ivy's voice broke the heavy moment. "I did all my pluses." "That's great, Princess." Silas's smile didn't quite reach his eyes, but his voice was warm. "Why don't you show Camille while I grab the paperwork?" As Ivy proudly displayed her mathematical achievements, Camille's phone buzzed. A text from Liam. "Power company called. Again. What should I say?" Her hand trembled slightly as she typed back, "Tell them I'll call tomorrow." Then, because she couldn't help it, "You eat lunch?" "Yes, Mom," came the eye-rolling response. "Stop worrying." "Here we go," Silas returned with a folder. "Standard contract, hours, payment detail." He paused. "Everything okay?" "Fine," Camille said automatically, tucking her phone away. "Just my brother." Something shifted in Silas's expression. "The teenager? Must be hard raising him alone." "We manage." She straightened her shoulders, defensive. "I'm not alone. We have each other." "Like me and Daddy," Ivy chimed in, climbing into Camille's lap as if she belonged there. The easy trust of it made Camille's throat tight. "But now we have you too, right?" The hope in that little voice was almost too much to bear. Camille looked up to find Silas watching them, something unreadable in his expression. For a moment, no one spoke. The afternoon sun painted shadows across the paper garden, making the flowers seem to dance. "Right," Camille finally whispered, and felt the weight of that single word settle into her bones. "Now you have me too." She didn't notice Silas's hands clench around his coffee mug, or the way his eyes lingered on her gentle fingers braiding Ivy's hair. She didn't see how he watched them together like a man standing on the edge of something both wonderful and terrifying. But she did notice later as she was leaving how Ivy hugged her legs and whispered, "The flowers don't burn in my dreams anymore." And maybe that's why, when she got home to find the power cut off and Liam doing homework by flashlight, she didn't break down. Instead, she lit their mother's old emergency candles and told him about paper gardens and second chances. Because sometimes hope grows best in the dark. To be continued. Have you ever created something beautiful from the ashes of loss? Share your story in the comments below. Your participation in this channel means everything to us. Please leave your opinion in the comments. October painted Savannah's trees in shades of amber and gold as Camille settled into her new routine. 3 weeks of after-school care had transformed the Merrick's house into something dangerously close to comfort. She knew now that Ivy liked her sandwiches cut into stars, that Silas hummed old country songs when he cooked, that the third step from the bottom always creaked no matter how carefully you stepped. She also knew she was falling, and that terrified her more than any unpaid bill. "Tell me the story again," Ivy requested, curled up on the window seat where they did their daily reading. Outside, leaves danced across the front yard and the setting sun turned everything to honey. "Which one, sweetie?" Camille asked, though she already knew. It had become their ritual. Homework, snack, and then stories until Silas came home. "The one about the phoenix." Ivy snuggled closer, her firefighter helmet perched precariously on the windowsill beside them. "The bird that comes back from the fire." Camille's fingers combed through Ivy's soft hair, so like her mother's in the photograph. "Once upon a time there was a magical bird with feathers made of sunlight. Ladies? Silas's voice startled them both. He stood in the doorway, still in his uniform earlier than usual. Something about his expression made Camille's heart skip. Ivy, baby, can you go play in your room for a bit? I need to talk to Camille. Ivy looked between them, her small face suddenly serious. Is it about the bad dreams? Silas flinched. No, sweet pea, just grown-up stuff. Once Ivy disappeared upstairs, Silas sank into the armchair across from Camille. He looked exhausted, shadows under his eyes darker than usual. We had a call today. Apartment complex on Morrison Street. Camille's blood ran cold. That's your building. Yeah. He rubbed his face. Everyone's okay. Small kitchen fire in 3B contained quickly, but he met her eyes. Camille, the wiring in that place is ancient. The whole building's a tinderbox, waiting to happen. She wrapped her arms around herself, remembering the flickering lights, the constant buzz of failing electricity. We can't afford to move. I know. His voice softened. That's why I wanted to. He stopped, frustrated. Look, I know it's not my place, but I have a spare room. You and Liam could... No. The word came out sharper than intended. I mean, thank you, but no, we're fine. Fine? He stood abruptly. Your power's been out for weeks. Liam's doing homework by candlelight. That's not fine, Camille. She rose, too, anger and something else making her voice shake. Have you been checking up on me? I'm a firefighter. It's my job to notice these things. He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. It's my job to prevent tragedies before they happen. Like you prevented Lauren's? The words escaped before she could stop them. Silas recoiled as if she'd slapped him. The silence that followed was deafening. I'm sorry, Camille whispered, horror washing over her. I didn't mean... Daddy? Ivy's small voice came from the stairs. Are you and Camille fighting? The fear in her tone broke something in both adults. Silas moved first, scooping up his daughter. No, baby, we're just talking. Loud talking, Ivy said skeptically. Like before the fire, when you and Mommy had loud talking about being careful. Silas's face went pale. Camille watched as he struggled to speak, his arms tightening around Ivy. Sometimes, Camille said carefully, moving closer to them both. People who care about each other get scared, and scared can sound loud. Ivy considered this, her small fingers playing with her father's collar. Are you scared because you love each other? The question hung in the air like smoke. Camille met Silas's gaze over Ivy's head and saw her own. Terror reflected there. Terror of loss, of hope, of chances that could burn everything to the ground. I'm scared, Silas finally said, his voice rough, because I don't know how to keep everyone safe anymore. The truth of it cracked something open in Camille's chest. Before she could think better of it, she reached out and touched his arm. Maybe, she whispered, maybe safe isn't about keeping the fire away. Maybe it's about learning to rebuild after it passes. His hand covered hers, warm and calloused. For a moment they stood there connected, with Ivy between them like a bridge. Then Camille's phone rang, Liam's ringtone, and reality crashed back in. She stepped away, missing the warmth immediately. I should go. Camille? Please. She cut him off. I need to think. She gathered her things quickly, kissing Ivy's forehead and avoiding Silas's eyes, but at the door his voice stopped her. The spare room offer stands. No strings, no expectations, just safety. She didn't turn around. Couldn't. Good night, Silas. The autumn wind chilled her tears as she walked home, leaves crunching under her feet. At the corner, she looked back to see Ivy and Silas silhouetted in the window, the little girl waving goodbye, and in her mind, a phoenix spread its wings, rising not from ashes but from the space between heartbeats where fear and love dance like flames. To be continued. When was the last time you had to choose between pride and protection? Tell us your story in the comments below. Your participation in this channel means everything to us. Please leave your opinion in the comments. The first real cold snap of autumn found Camille huddled under 3 blankets, reviewing her monthly budget. By flashlight, the numbers refused to add up no matter how many times she moved them around. Beside her, Liam pretended to sleep, but she could feel his shivering. "Stop watching me," she murmured, crossing out another failed calculation. "Stop worrying," he countered, sitting up. In the weak beam of the flashlight, his face looked older than 16. "I talked to Mr. Patterson again. The garage job, Liam, would pay enough to cover the power bill at least." He grabbed her pencil, forcing her to look at him. "I'm not a kid anymore, Cam. I can help." Before she could respond, a knock at the door made them both jump. Camille's heart lurched. Bill collectors didn't come at night, but landlords did, especially when rent was late. But it wasn't the landlord. "Silas?" She blinked at him through the crack in the door, suddenly conscious of her worn sweater and messy hair. "What are you—" "Carbon monoxide detector." He held up a small device. "Standard issue. I'm delivering them to everyone in the building." His professional tone cracked slightly, though most other apartments have power to run them. "We're fine," she started to say, but Liam appeared behind her. "Hey, Mr. Merrick." Her brother's voice carried a note she'd never heard before, something like hope. "How's Ivy?" "Missing her reading buddy." Silas's eyes never left Camille's face. "She asked me why you stopped coming over." 3 days. She'd called in sick for 3 days, unable to face him after their argument. Mrs. Kennedy from 2A had watched Ivy instead, but Camille's phone had accumulated a dozen texts from both. Merrick's, Ivy's filled with misspelled words and heart emojis, Silas's with careful concern. "I had some things to figure out," she said softly. "Figure out faster," Liam muttered, then louder. "It's freezing in here, by the way, in case anyone cares." "Liam!" But Silas was already pushing the door wider, his firefighter's training clearly, noting every hazard, the candles, the fraying electrical cords, the ice-cold radiator. "Enough," he said, and the authority in his voice made them both straighten. "Pack some bags, you're coming with me." "We can't," Camille started. "Can," Liam interrupted. "We absolutely can." He turned to Silas. "Give us 15 minutes?" Something passed between the two males, some understanding that Camille couldn't quite grasp. Silas nodded. "I'll wait in the truck." The moment he left, Camille rounded on her brother. "What do you think you're doing?" "Saving us." Liam's voice cracked. "Like you've been saving me since Mom died." He grabbed her shoulders gently. "You don't have to do everything alone anymore, Cam. Sometimes the brave thing is letting people help." She stared at him, her baby brother who suddenly wasn't a baby anymore. When had that happened? When had he grown this wisdom that reminded her so much of their mother? "What about school?" she tried weakly. "Your friends? School's closer to their house anyway." He was already pulling out their duffel bags. "And I don't exactly have a booming social life doing homework by candlelight." 20 minutes later, they stood in the Merrick's warm kitchen. Ivy, awakened by their arrival, clung to Camille's legs in her Disney princess pajamas, refusing to go back to bed. "Stay," she kept saying. "Please stay." "Just for a little while," Camille promised, fighting tears. "Just until we figure things out." "The room upstairs is yours for as long as you need it," Silas said firmly. He carried their bags up himself, despite Liam's protests that he could manage. "There's a twin bed and a pull-out couch, bathrooms across the hall." But when Camille tried to thank him, he shook his head. "Don't. Please." His voice dropped so the kids couldn't hear. "I couldn't save Lauren, but maybe I can do this right." She wanted to tell him that he wasn't responsible for saving anyone, that grief wasn't a debt that needed repaying. Instead, she found herself reaching for his hand in the darkened hallway. He interlaced their fingers, and for a moment they just breathed together. "Camille?" Ivy's small voice drifted up the stairs. "Can you tell me the Phoenix story again?" Silas squeezed her hand once before letting go. Go. She won't sleep without it now. Later, after the story was told and both kids were finally asleep, Liam, on the pull-out couch, Ivy in her own room with the door cracked open, Camille stood at the window of her temporary bedroom. The paper garden was visible from here, its shadows dancing in the moonlight. Her phone buzzed, a text from her landlord about the missing rent. With trembling fingers, she typed, "We're staying with friends for a while. I'll send you a forwarding address for the security deposit." Friends. The word felt both too small and too dangerous for whatever this was becoming. Downstairs, she heard Silas moving around in the kitchen, the quiet domestic sounds of him loading the dishwasher and checking the locks. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass, watching her breath fog the window. Slowly, carefully, she traced a small flame in the condensation. Then beside it, a wing. Maybe, she whispered to her reflection, maybe sometimes home finds you. In the darkness, the paper flowers nodded as if in agreement, their shadows, telling stories of endings that became beginnings, and fires that forged instead of destroyed. To be continued. When was the last time someone's kindness broke down your walls? Share your experience in the comments below. Your participation in this channel means everything to us. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Morning routines had a way of revealing truths. After a week in the Merrick house, Camille learned that Liam liked his toast barely warmed, that Ivy hummed "Let It Go" while brushing her teeth, and that Silas's coffee mug, a chipped firefighter, academy graduation gift, was sacred territory. She also learned that watching him make breakfast in worn sweatpants and yesterday's t-shirt was a special kind of torture. "You're staring again," Liam whispered, elbowing her as he reached for the orange juice. His knowing smirk earned him a swat with the dish towel. "Homework done?" She deflected, though her cheeks burned. "Did it with Ivy last night. She's weirdly good at algebra for a first grader." As if summoned, Ivy bounced into the kitchen wearing mismatched socks and her ever-present firefighter helmet. "Daddy, can Camille come to family day at school? Ms. Rivera says we can invite extra family members this year." The kitchen went silent. Silas froze mid-pour, coffee threatening to overflow his sacred mug. Camille's heart did a complicated gymnastics routine in her chest. "Sweet pea," Silas started carefully. "Camille might be busy. I'd love to come." The words escaped before she could catch them, but the way Ivy's face lit up made any potential awkwardness worth it. "Really?" The little girl launched herself into Camille's arms. "Can you help me show everyone my garden project? Ms. Rivera says it's the best healing art she's ever seen." "Of course." Camille caught Silas's eye over Ivy's head. His expression was unreadable, but something in it made her pulse quicken. The moment shattered as his radio crackled to life. "Station 12, we've got a situation at Riverside Elementary." Riverside, Ivy's school. "Daddy?" Ivy's voice trembled. "Probably just a drill, sweet pea." But Silas was already moving, years of training taking over. "Camille? I'll drop her at my old babysitting family's house," she said immediately. "The Hendersons love her." "No school?" Ivy asked hopefully. "Not today, princess." Silas knelt to kiss her forehead. "Be good for Camille." He hesitated at the door, looking back at them, Ivy in Camille's arms, Liam hovering protectively nearby. A family tableau he hadn't expected to have again. "Silas." Camille's voice stopped him. "Be careful." His eyes softened. "Always am." But he wasn't. The call lasted hours. Camille tried to distract Ivy with books and games at the Hendersons, but the little girl grew increasingly quiet, clutching her helmet like a lifeline. "Daddy promised," she whispered around noon, as they watched yet another fire truck race past. "He promised he'd always come back." Camille pulled her closer. "And he will." "That's what Mommy said too." The words hung in the air like smoke. Beside them, Mrs. Henderson's TV droned with news updates. Chemical fire at Riverside Elementary. Several firefighters injured in containment efforts. Camille's phone buzzed. Liam. Any news? School's in lockdown, but rumors flying. Before she could respond, another text lit up her screen. Unknown number. Savannah General, room 304, he's asking for you both. Captain Torres. The world tilted sideways. Mrs. Henderson? Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Could you go? The older woman was already reaching for Ivy. I'll watch them both. No. Ivy clung tighter. I want to see Daddy. Camille looked at the little girl. Really looked at her. Saw the steel beneath the fear, the same strength that had helped her survive losing her mother. Okay, she decided. But you have to be very brave. Can you do that? Ivy straightened, adjusting her helmet with determined fingers. I'm a Merrick. We're always brave. The hospital corridors seemed endless. Ivy's hand was sweaty in Camille's, but neither let go. Room 304 loomed ahead, its door partially open. Well, if it isn't my favorite girls. Silas's voice was hoarse but strong. He lay propped up in bed, oxygen tube in his nose, bandages on his arms. But he was alive, breathing, smiling. Daddy! Ivy launched herself carefully onto the bed, mindful of the IV lines in a way no 6-year-old should have to be. Hey, sweet pea. He held her with his less injured arm. Nice helmet. I wore it to be strong like you. She touched his bandages gently. Did you fight the bad fire? Yeah, baby, but the fire didn't win. His eyes found Camille, still frozen in the doorway. It didn't win. Something broke in Camille's chest. She moved without thinking, crossing the room in 3 steps. Her hands found his face, fingertips tracing the soot still smudged on his jaw. You promised to be careful, she whispered. I was. His good hand caught hers, holding it against his cheek. There was a kid. Reminded me of Ivy. Had to make sure. Daddy's a hero, Ivy announced proudly, snuggling between them. No, sweet pea. Silas's voice roughened. Heroes don't make their little girls worry, or the people they... He swallowed hard, looking at Camille. The people they love. The word hung between them like a prayer. Love is worry, Camille found herself saying. Love is fear and hope and showing up anyway. She squeezed his hand. Love is what makes us brave. Later, after Ivy had fallen asleep on the narrow hospital bed, after the doctors had confirmed Silas would recover fully, after Liam had brought them all contraband chocolate pudding from the cafeteria, Camille stood at the window watching night settle over Savannah. Stay, Silas said quietly behind her. She turned. I'm not going anywhere. No. He shifted, wincing slightly. I mean, stay. Not just until you find a new place. Not just until things get better. Stay because... He took a shaky breath. Stay because we're better together. All of us. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, but for the first time, they didn't sound like warnings. They sounded like hope. To be continued. Have you ever realized that your greatest fear and your greatest love were the same thing? Tell us about it in the comments below. Your participation in this channel means everything to us. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Recovery looked different in the daylight. 2 weeks after the Riverside Elementary fire, Silas sat on his front porch watching fallen leaves dance across the yard. His bandaged arms itched, and the mandatory medical leave chafed worse than any physical wound. But the view made it bearable. In the yard, Camille helped Ivy plant tulip bulbs, real ones, not paper, while Liam raked leaves into piles that somehow kept accidentally collapsing onto his sister's head. The autumn sun caught Camille's hair as she laughed, transforming the simple black strands into something magical. You're supposed to be resting, she called out, catching him watching. I am resting. He shifted in the rocking chair, trying to hide his wince. Completely and totally. Liar. She brushed dirt from her jeans and climbed the porch steps, You're thinking about the station. He was thinking about her, actually. About how she'd taken over everything since his injury, cooking, cleaning, coordinating his medical appointments, helping Ivy with her grief counseling homework. About how right it felt to wake up knowing she was down the hall. About how terrified he was that she'd realize she didn't need him at all. Captain Torres called, he said instead. They're planning the annual firefighters' family picnic next month. Oh, she busied herself adjusting his sling, but he caught the flash of uncertainty in her eyes. Lauren used to organize it. The words felt heavy. Ivy hasn't been since... A shriek of laughter interrupted them as Liam finally managed to dump an entire armful of leaves over Ivy's helmet. That's it, Ivy declared with all the authority a 6-year-old could muster. This means war. They watched as the leaf battle escalated, Ivy climbing onto Liam's back like a tiny warrior princess while he pretended to be overwhelmed by her attack. She's healing, Camille said softly. They both are. Because of you. Because of us. She turned to face him fully. All of us together. He reached for her hand, needing to anchor himself against the tide of emotions her words triggered. She interlaced their fingers without hesitation, and the simple gesture felt more intimate than any kiss. The picnic, he started again. I thought maybe... Daddy! Ivy's urgent voice cut him off. Come look, we found something in the leaves. Camille helped him up, her touch lingering longer than necessary. They made their way down the steps to where Ivy and Liam crouched over something small and dark. It's hurt, Ivy explained, pointing to a baby bird that had fallen from its nest. Like Daddy was hurt. Can we help it? Silas knelt carefully beside his daughter, recognizing the echo of her mother's compassion in her worried face. Sometimes, Sweet Pea, the kindest help is letting go. No. Ivy's lower lip trembled. You didn't let go when you were hurt. Camille didn't let go when she was scared. Liam doesn't let go of his memories of his mommy. She looked up at them, with fierce determination. We don't let go, we help. Camille's breath caught audibly. Liam's rake hit the ground with a soft thud. Okay. Silas found himself saying. Okay, we'll try. What followed was a family mission. Liam Googled bird care while Camille found an old shoebox and soft towels. Ivy supervised the creation of their makeshift nest with the seriousness of a surgeon, her helmet tipped back for better viewing. We should name it, she decided as they settled the box in a warm corner of the porch. Phoenix, Liam suggested, grinning at Camille. Since we're all about rising from ashes these days. Later, after the kids were asleep and the house had settled into its nighttime creaks and whispers, Silas found Camille checking on their tiny patient. It probably won't make it, she said without turning around. Probably not. He moved to stand behind her close enough to feel her warmth. But Ivy was right, we try anyway. She leaned back slightly, letting him support some of her weight. The picnic. Were you going to ask us to come? Yes. He wrapped his good arm around her waist, pressing his face into her hair. But not just as guests. As family. She stiffened. Slightly. Silas. I know it's fast. I know there are 1,000 reasons to be careful. His voice dropped to a whisper. But I'm tired of being careful. I'm tired of pretending I don't want to kiss you every time you help Ivy with her homework. Or when you force me to take my pain meds, or when you just exist. She turned in his arms, her eyes bright with unshed tears. What if it doesn't work? What if we burn everything down? Then we rebuild. He touched her cheek. Like you taught me. The department has rules about dating victims' families. She tried one last time. Good thing you're not a victim. He smiled slightly. You're a hero. You saved my daughter. You saved me. Pretty sure it was the other way around. Maybe we saved each other. The baby bird chirped softly in its box, a tiny sound of life and hope. On the wall behind them, Ivy's paper garden cast moon shadows, the origami birds seeming to take flight. And finally, Camille stopped fighting. She rose on her tiptoes and pressed her lips to his, gentle as a promise, fierce as a phoenix rising. Sometimes love was like that, both gentle and fierce, both ending and beginning, both flame and flight. To be continued. When did you realize that your greatest healing came from helping others heal? Share your story in the comments below. Your participation in this channel means everything to us. Please leave your opinion in the comments. The firefighters' family picnic sprawled across Forsyth Park like a scene from a Norman Rockwell painting. If Norman Rockwell had included fire trucks and a bouncy castle. Red and white checkered blankets dotted the grass, children darted between, tables loaded with potluck dishes, and the autumn air carried the scent of barbecue and belonging. Camille stood at the edge of it all, gripping her homemade apple pie like a shield. "Stop panicking," Liam murmured beside her. "They're firefighters, not dragons. Dragons might be easier." She watched Silas across the lawn, now cleared for light duty, showing Ivy how to work the fire hose in the kids' demonstration area. His smile was brighter than the October sun, and the sight of it still made her heart skip. Well, if it isn't the hero herself. A booming voice made them both jump. Captain Torres approached, his salt and pepper hair gleaming. "The woman who saved our little Ivy." "Oh, I'm not," Camille started, but he was already pulling her into a bear hug, pie and all. "Nonsense, we've heard all about you, though Silas failed to mention how pretty you are." He winked, then turned to Liam. "And this must be the brother. Good man, taking care of your sister." "Other way around, actually," Liam said with unexpected firmness. "She's the one who takes care of everyone." Something in Torres's expression softened. "Yes, I imagine she does." He gestured toward the crowd. "Come on, the crew's dying to meet you both. And I smell apple pie." What followed was a whirlwind of introductions. Camille met what felt like the entire station. Weathered veterans who shared stories of Lauren's kindness, younger firefighters who praised Silas's mentorship, spouses who immediately added her to their text group for recipe exchanges. "They love you," Silas whispered when he finally caught up to her, sneaking a kiss behind one of the trucks. "I told you they would." "Daddy," Ivy's voice carried across the park. "Come quick. They're starting the water balloon fight." They emerged from behind the truck to find Ivy bouncing with excitement, her helmet replaced for the day with a plastic tiara that matched her sundress. But her face fell slightly when she saw them holding hands. "What's wrong, sweet pea?" Silas knelt beside her. "Are you—" She hesitated, fingers twisting in her dress. "Are you going to be like Tommy's daddy?" "Tommy's daddy? He got a new girlfriend and then he moved away." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He doesn't come to see Tommy anymore?" The weight of her fear settled over them like smoke. Camille started to step back to give them space, but Silas's grip tightened. "Hey," he said gently, pulling Camille down to their level. "Remember what we learned about different kinds of families in Ms. Rivera's class?" Ivy nodded solemnly. "Some have one parent, some have two mommies or two daddies, some have step-parents. And what makes them all real families?" "Love," she recited. "And staying even when it's hard." "Exactly." Silas touched her cheek. "I will never leave you, sweet pea. Ever. And Camille." He looked up at her, eyes full of certainty. "Camille stays too. If she wants?" "Forever?" Ivy asked, hope creeping into her voice. Camille's throat tightened. "Forever is a pretty long time." "Good." Ivy's smile bloomed like sunrise. "Because I already told Ms. Rivera you're coming to parent night next week. Both of you." Before either adult could process that bombshell, a commotion near the park entrance drew their attention. A woman stood there, elegant in a way that made Camille suddenly conscious of her casual sundress and messy ponytail. "Is that—" Liam appeared beside them, frowning. "Isn't that Lauren's sister?" Silas went very still. "Rebecca." The woman spotted them, her designer heels clicking against the pavement as she approached. Her eyes swept over their little group, lingering on Camille's hand and Silas's. Ivy's comfortable position between them. "Well," she said coolly, "this is cozy." "Aunt Becca." Ivy started forward, but Rebecca's next words stopped her cold. "I see you've wasted no time replacing my sister." The picnic seemed to freeze. Even the children's laughter felt distant, muted. Camille felt Silas's hand tremble in hers. "That's not," he started. "Save it." Rebecca's perfectly painted lips curved in a cold smile. "I've already spoken with my lawyer. As Lauren's only living relative, I have concerns about Ivy's current situation." The world tilted sideways. Camille heard Liam's sharp intake of breath, felt Ivy press closer to her leg. "You can't." Silas's voice cracked. "You can't take her." "Can't I?" Rebecca adjusted her designer sunglasses. A grieving father, working dangerous hours, living with a woman of questionable stability. Her gaze flicked to Camille's worn sandals. Any family court would be concerned. "Stop it!" The shout came from an unexpected source. Liam stepped forward, all gangly teenage righteousness. "You don't know anything about them, about us." "Us?" Rebecca arched a perfect eyebrow. "And you are?" "Family," Ivy said firmly, reaching for both Liam and Camille's hands. "They're my family." Something flickered in Rebecca's expression. Pain, perhaps, or loneliness. But it vanished, quickly behind designer armor. "We'll see what the court says." She turned to leave, then paused. "Happy Halloween, by the way. Lauren always did love this time of year." They watched her click away, her words settling like ash over their perfect autumn day. Around them, the picnic continued, children laughing, parents chatting, life moving forward. But in their small circle, time stood still. "She can't," Camille whispered, pulling both children closer. "She can't take this away." Silas looked at her, at their improvised family huddled together against the threat. His voice, when it came, held steel beneath the fear. "No," he said. "She can't, because this time we fight together." Above them, leaves danced on the October breeze, red and gold and fierce as flame. To be continued. Have you ever had to defend your chosen family against those who didn't understand? Share your story in the comments below. Your participation in this channel means everything to us. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Halloween arrived in a swirl of fallen leaves and legal papers. The certified letter sat unopened on the Merrick's kitchen table like a bomb, waiting to detonate, while overhead Ivy's laughter floated down from her room where she tried on her firefighter princess costume. "You have to open it," Camille said softly, sliding a cup of coffee across the table to Silas. He stared at the envelope, his fingers absently tracing Lauren's old watch. "I keep thinking about the last time I saw Rebecca. At the funeral." His voice roughened. "She didn't even stay for the whole service. Said she couldn't bear to watch her sister be buried in a firefighter's uniform instead of the Vera Wang wedding dress they'd picked out together. The one Lauren never wore. She chose the academy instead of law school, chose me instead of the society husband Rebecca had lined up." He met Camille's eyes. Rebecca never forgave her for any of it. Before Camille could respond, Liam burst through the front door, waving a stack of papers. "Found it!" He dropped a worn manila folder on the table, was going through Mom's old work stuff and remembered she handled a custody case like this when she was paralegal. The folder contained highlighted legal documents, careful notes in their mother's precise handwriting. Camille touched the familiar script, heart aching. "She always said family was more than blood," Liam continued, pulling out specific pages. "Look, there's precedent for—" A small gasp from the doorway cut him off. They turned to find Ivy, resplendent in her costume, staring at the papers with two old eyes. "Is that from Aunt Becca?" She moved closer, her plastic tiara slightly askew. "Is she really going to take me away?" "No, sweet pea." Silas opened his arms and she crawled into them, crown and all. "No one's taking you anywhere." But she was Mommy's sister. Ivy's voice wavered. And you always said we have to honor Mommy's family. Oh, honey. Camille knelt beside them. Family isn't just about who we're born to. It's about who we choose to love, who we choose to become. Like how you chose us. Ivy touched Camille's cheek with small fingers. Even though you were scared? Exactly like that. A knock at the door made them all jump. But it wasn't Rebecca, or her lawyers. It was Captain Torres, still in uniform, holding a box of old files. Sorry to interrupt. He took in their gathered faces, the papers spread across the table. Ah, you got the letter too. Two? Silas straightened. Torres set the box down heavily. Rebecca sent one to the station, demanding Lauren's personnel files, incident reports, shift schedules. He pulled out a leather-bound notebook. But she doesn't know about this. Lauren's duty journal, Silas breathed. Found it cleaning out the old lockers. She wrote in it every shift. Torres opened it carefully, including the night before she died. The kitchen fell silent as he read. Becca called again, threatened, to tell internal affairs about the safety violations she claims she saw. Doesn't understand that some rules need bending when lives are at stake. Says I'm throwing away everything we were raised for. Maybe I am. But every life I save, every family I help keep whole, that's worth more than all the country club memberships in Georgia. Camille watched tears track down Silas's face as Torres continued. Silas worries I'm pushing too hard, taking too many risks. He's right, probably. But I need my sister to understand. This isn't rebellion. This is purpose. This is love in its purest form. And if anything ever happens to me, I need Ivy to know that love is always worth the risk. She knew. Silas's voice cracked. She knew Rebecca would try something like this. There's more. Torres turned to the final entry. Right here. If anything happens, Ivy stays with Silas. Not Becca. My daughter needs to grow up knowing it's okay to choose her own path, to build her own kind of family, to love freely and fiercely without society's constraints. Will it hold up? Liam asked. Legally? With this, her official will, and the documentation of Rebecca's absence these past 2 years? Torres smiled grimly. Rebecca's lawyers can try, but they won't win. Ivy, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly sat up straight. Can I see, please? They watched as she traced her mother's handwriting with reverent fingers, this tangible piece of the woman she was too young to really remember. Mommy wrote that love is worth the risk, she said thoughtfully. Like how you risked getting hurt to save me. She looked at Camille. And how you risk loving us even though you lost your mommy too. Something in Camille's chest cracked open. She gathered Ivy close, breathing in the sweet scent of her hair, feeling Silas's arm wrap around them both. Speaking of risk, Torres said gently, there's something else you should know. The department's family support board met yesterday about your situation. Silas tensed. John. They voted unanimously. Any policy about dating victims' families doesn't apply here. Torres's eyes crinkled. Can't be a victim's family if you're already family. Lauren's journal makes that pretty clear. Outside, trick-or-treaters began their evening rounds. Through the window, they could see children in bright costumes, parents following with flashlights and camera phones, normal families doing normal things. But here in the kitchen, surrounded by legal papers and memories, their unusual family held each other close. And somehow that felt more real than any normal could ever be. We should go, Ivy said finally, adjusting her crown. Can't miss trick-or-treating. Mommy wouldn't want us to be sad on Halloween. No, Silas agreed, helping her straighten the plastic tiara. She'd want us to be brave, and happy, and together, Camille added softly. Above them, the paper garden rustled in the evening breeze. And if they listened closely, they might have heard Lauren's words whisper through the pages of her journal. Love is always worth the risk. To be continued? When did you realize that the family you chose was fighting just as hard to choose you? Share your moment in the comments below. Your participation in this channel means everything to us. Please leave your opinion in the comments. The first snow of December dusted Savannah like powdered sugar, rare and magical. In the Merrick's front yard, the tulip bulbs Camille and Ivy had planted slept beneath a thin white blanket, waiting for spring. And in the kitchen, 4 people who had started as strangers gathered around a battered recipe box. "You're sure about this?" Silas asked, watching Camille measure flour with her mother's old copper cups. "Lauren's sugar cookies were legendary. At the station," she replied, then hesitated. "But if it's too soon, no." He caught her flour-dusted hand, bringing it to his lips. "It's time." 2 months had passed since Rebecca's challenge. 2 months of legal meetings, of Ivy's nightmares returning, of holding their breath. But in the end, Lauren's journal and will had proved unshakable. Rebecca's lawyers quietly withdrew their petition last week. Now they faced a different challenge. Their first Christmas as a family. "Found it!" Ivy's voice rang triumphant as she pulled a handwritten recipe card from the box. The edges were singed slightly. It had survived. The fire that took Lauren, protected in its metal container. "Look, Mommy drew little hearts around the edges." Camille watched Silas's throat work as he took the card. His fingers traced Lauren's looping script the same way they still sometimes traced his old watch. "She used to make these every Christmas Eve," he said softly. "Started at midnight, said it was magic hour. The whole station would smell like vanilla and love," Ivy finished. "That's what she wrote at the bottom, see?" She pointed to a small note. "Secret ingredient. Love. Always love." "Then we better get it right." Liam appeared with his laptop. "I found her favorite Christmas playlist online. The one you mentioned last week." Music filled the kitchen. Gentle carols and winter jazz. They worked together, passing ingredients, sharing stories. Ivy insisted on wearing her firefighter helmet, claiming it was perfect for kitchen safety. Liam documented everything on his phone for posterity, though Camille suspected it was more for memory. "Mom would have loved this," he whispered, as they cut shapes in the dough. "She always said holidays were for healing." Camille squeezed his hand, leaving traces of flour. "She's here, in every recipe we remember, every tradition we keep. And every new one we make," Silas added, helping Ivy press a star-shaped cutter into the dough. "Like this." The cookies filled the house with warmth and sweetness. While they baked, Ivy insisted on adding to her paper garden, white flowers this time for snow. Liam helped her fold intricate crystalline shapes, their heads bent together, over origami instructions. "They look like stars," Camille mused, watching them work. "Like family," Silas corrected, pulling her close. "Individual pieces making something beautiful together." The timer chimed. They gathered around the oven, holding their breath as Silas pulled out the first batch. "They're perfect," Ivy bounced on her toes. "Just like Mommy's." "Almost," Silas said. His voice caught. "They're their own kind of perfect." Understanding bloomed in Ivy's eyes. "Like us? We're not the same as before, but we're still perfect?" "Exactly like that, sweet pea." They ate cookies still warm from the oven, leaving crumbs on Lauren's recipe card. Outside, snow continued to fall, and the paper garden's new white flowers seemed to glow in the early evening light. "I have something," Camille said finally, retrieving an envelope from her jacket. "For all of us." Inside was a legal document, not threatening this time, but full of promise. "Adoption papers," she explained, watching their faces. "For both kids, if you want." Silence fell, broken only by the soft carols still playing. "You mean?" Liam's voice cracked. "We'd be really family," Ivy whispered. "On paper and everything." Silas took the envelope with trembling hands. "Camille, I know it's fast," she rushed on, "and complicated, and maybe too much, but I love you, all of you. And after everything with Rebecca, I thought, I wanted..." Yes. The word came from all 3 of them at once. Ivy launched herself into Camille's arms. Liam wrapped them both in a bear hug. And Silas. Silas knelt in the midst of their family circle, pulling something from his pocket. "I was going to wait until Christmas," he said, opening a small velvet box. "But since we're doing life-changing moments..." The ring was simple, elegant, a small diamond flanked by 2 sapphires. But it wasn't the stones that made Camille's breath catch. It was the engraving inside. "Love is always worth the risk." "Lauren's words," Silas explained. "Because she led me to you. Her courage taught me how to love again, and now we build something new." Camille finished, tears falling freely. "Together." "Together," Ivy echoed, taking Liam's hand. As Silas slipped the ring onto her finger, as their children, cheered and hugged and scattered cookie crumbs everywhere, as the snow fell gentle as grace outside their windows, Camille felt the last pieces of her heart click into place. This was what her mother meant about holiday healing. What Lauren knew about love being worth the risk. What Rebecca never understood about chosen family being as real as blood. This was their own kind of perfect. Later, after the kitchen was cleaned and the cookies were packed in tins for the station, after Ivy fell asleep between them on the couch and Liam draped blankets over them all, Camille and Silas sat in comfortable silence, watching the snow. "What are you thinking?" he asked, running his fingers through her hair. She touched her ring, then his watch, connecting past and present. "I'm thinking about paper gardens and real ones, about how love grows in the strangest places. Like, between a grieving firefighter and a guardian angel who saved his daughter? Like between broken people who chose to be whole together." Above them, Ivy's paper flowers cast shadows like promises. Outside, real flowers slept beneath the snow, waiting to bloom. And in their hearts, love burned steady as a pilot light, ready to warm whatever future came their way. To be continued in the epilogue. When did you realize that your broken pieces fit perfectly with someone else's? Tell us your love story in the comments below. Your participation in this channel means everything to us. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Ewig. Blooming season spring came early to Savannah that year. The tulips Camille and Ivy had planted emerged from the earth like tiny flames, red and yellow against the warming soil. And on a perfect April morning, as dawn painted the sky in shades of promise, the Merrick Prescott family gathered in their front yard. "Ready?" Silas asked, adjusting Ivy's helmet, a new one, properly sized, with Junior Chief painted in gold letters. "Ready," she confirmed, holding up her mother's recipe box. Inside, along with Lauren's cherished recipes, rested other treasures. Camille's mother's handwritten notes on love and family, photos of their blended life and most recently adoption, papers bearing all their names. Today, they would bury it. Like a time capsule, Liam explained, digging the final few inches of the hole. At 18, he'd grown even taller, his graduation tassel hanging from the rearview mirror of the used car he and Camille had picked out together. "For the family that comes after us. For the future," Camille added softly, her wedding ring catching the morning light. She rested one hand on her slightly rounded belly, their newest surprise, due in autumn. They'd chosen this spot carefully, beneath the nursery window, where Ivy's paper garden had inspired real blooms. The tulips stood guard like tiny sentinels, their petals still spangled with dew. "I wrote a letter," Ivy announced, pulling a carefully folded paper from her pocket. "Can I read it before we bury the box?" They gathered closer as she unfolded her words. "Dear future family, this box holds our story. It's about how love doesn't end when someone leaves. It just changes shape. Like how my first mommy loved us so much she became a hero, and then sent us another mommy who was brave enough to love us even though she was scared. It's about how my big brother Liam taught me that family isn't just who you're born to, but who you choose to grow with. And how Daddy learned to smile again even though he thought his heart was too broken. Inside this box are recipes made with love, pictures drawn with hope, and memories saved with care. Some things are a little burnt around the edges, but that's okay. The best stories have scorch marks. Ms. Rivera says trauma can be transformed into triumph. I didn't understand that at first, But now I know it means that sometimes the hardest things we go through lead us to the best places we'll ever be. So if you find this box someday, remember, paper gardens can become real ones. Broken hearts can learn to love again. And family is like my firefighter helmet. It protects you, guides you, and reminds you who you are when you forget. With love and hope and chocolate chip cookies, Ivy Merrick Prescott, age 7 3/4, Junior Fire Chief Professional Big Sister in training. Silence fell as she finished reading, broken only by sniffles poorly disguised as spring allergies. That was beautiful, Sweet Pea, Silas managed, his voice rough with emotion. Mom would have loved it, Liam added quietly. Both of them. Camille just pulled Ivy close, pressing a kiss to her hair. Words felt too small for the love expanding in her chest. Together they lowered the box into the earth. Each took a turn adding soil, Ivy with her red plastic shovel, Liam with the garden trowel their mother had used in her small herb garden, Silas with Lauren's old work gloves, Camille with bare hands, feeling the connection to all that had brought them here. As they patted the last of the soil in place, the station's morning siren sounded in the distance. But it didn't feel like a warning anymore. It felt like a celebration. Of life, of love, of family forged in flame and strengthened by choice. Look, Ivy pointed to where the first rays of sun caught morning mist, creating a momentary rainbow above their garden. It's like the Phoenix stories. Better, Camille said, feeling the baby flutter beneath her heart. It's real. They stood together in the growing light, this family built from broken pieces and brave choices. Above them, new leaves danced on the spring breeze. Below, roots both old and new reached deep into nurturing soil. And in their hearts, love bloomed eternal as the seasons, bright as flame, gentle as hope. Some said you couldn't grow flowers from ashes. But they had proved otherwise. They had proved that with enough love, enough courage, enough faith in the power of new beginnings, anything could bloom. Even happiness, especially happiness, always happiness. The end. What broken pieces in your life have become the foundation for something beautiful? Share your story of transformation in the comments below. Your participation in this channel means everything to us. Please leave your opinion in the comments. If you could write a letter to put in a time box for your future family, like Ivy's letter, what scars turned into triumphs would you share? What lessons about love, loss, and starting over would you like them to learn from your story? Your participation in the channel is very important. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.